Hi everyone, and welcome to the December edition of Price Know-How Snippets. For anyone not familiar with the format, this is where we try to give people a bit of market information right at the start of the month to hopefully advise them in terms of their pricing decisions. With me, as always, is my Managing Director, Mike Boswell, who's going to talk about some of the fundamental factors that go on to affect feedstocks and then polymer prices, and then our Product Manager for polyolefins, Ian Chisnell, who's going to talk about what we expect to see in terms of prices in the marketplace. So over to you, Mike, to kick us off.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm going to start by talking about exchange rates. And here really the theme is dollar weakness. So against the euro, the pound was at 1.14 in September, 1.15 in October, and 1.15 again in November. Those are the average rates across the month. So a lot of stability against the euro. On the other hand, the dollar, September 1.13, October 1.13, November 1.18, and today we're at about 1.21. So the dollar has kind of diminished in value by about 4% in the course of November, which will have implications for particularly oil prices. And moving on to oil prices, November we saw an average around about £583 a tonne, which was a reduction from October, which was 618, and September, which was 600. So we're seeing a softening of oil prices, still a lot of volatility within the month. So if we look at per barrel in dollars, the average was 91, the maximum was 98.57, and the minimum 83.63. So quite a lot of volatility still going on, mainly driven by geopolitical events, of course. And finally, want to touch on, which I think is useful, is to look at the UK Purchasing Managers Index. Actually, it's slightly better in November than it was in October. It's gone up to 46.5 from 46.2, but that should be taken in the context that anything below 50 represents shrinkage. So slightly less shrinkage than was, but generally the outlook, probably as most people are aware, is pretty negative. So that also has an influence in terms of both the UK, but I think we're seeing similar situations in Europe and beyond. And that's probably what's driving feedstock and polymer prices. So with that, I'll hand over to Ian, please.
Oh, many thanks, Mike. So as Mike sort of talked about, sort of oil prices have dropped, and that's fed into other petrochemical derivatives, and we've seen reductions in both ethylene C2 and propylene C3. So ethylene dropped €25, dropping down to 1,270 euros a ton, and propylene dropped 30, dropping down to 1,170 euros a ton. It's partly due to the reduced cost of feedstocks, but also relatively soft demand for these, both in terms of polymers, but also other products such as propylene oxide. All of these things are seeing weak demand, as Mike suggested too, with the overall economic situation. In terms of polymer pricing, we're expecting these drops to largely be passed through by most of the major producers. Whilst they are reducing their run rates and they're trying to limit the amount of material that's available, we are still slightly in an oversupply situation. So I think they'll have no choice but to put these reductions through. So I expect to see reductions in the region of around about 20 to £25 a tonne on your polymer prices in December. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Mike and Ian. Thanks everyone for your attention. If you do have any questions or want any further information, then please contact your customer service team, or indeed Mike, Ian or myself would be delighted to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.